Right, okay, so Jason Arday, headline says, is found dead. Well, there's various ways you can think about this. I mean, the first one is generally better it's not. Generally, it's better not to kill yourself because there are generally ways back from most things. You can apologise for most sins in life. Apologising for a career based on Crenshawism is probably a tall sell. It'd take me a fair while to forgive the guy, but you never know. He could have redeemed himself, but unfortunately, he's taken the easy way out. I don't know how much he got paid for going along with Crenshawist kabuki, but I'm sure the residents of the universities, despite funding cuts, are doing fairly well. I'm sure he was well fed during his tenure as a professor, probably better than doing compliance in Birmingham, in a place where you can be attacked by large thuggish men with weapons, but Deborah Gentieri just thinks she'll go and work there for her benefit. Strange place, really. Don't know if anyone can find her. But now he's dead. Some people are saying that's terrible and tragic, but again, not really. I mean, Rudy Cabana, of course, was hopped up on that kind of stuff. You want to cast a spell to attack people. I mean, he was pumping it out just in plagiarist form. So he was plagiarising Crenshawist fifth generation Zulu tactics via laptops, the sort of stuff that was coming in through Brumstead Council laptops in my face while we were trying to keep the city together and doing compliance. So are we sad about this? No, because in ethics, if you look up and other honest men look at it, you say, no, people like this have destabilised the country. I mean, if we'd gone along on a fairer setting and there hadn't been this kind of behaviour in universities, maybe it would have worked. But of course, because of the dishonesty and because the ideology, of course, is based on biology, so it appeals to things like greed, fear, that kind of stuff. It's a fairly starting as terror tactic. That he was just someone who continued this kind of stuff. So in Maoist regimes or in Pol Pot's regime, the people who are involved in this don't tend to be terribly sympathetic characters in the history books. You're not really going to be terribly sympathetic to Beria, are you, or these kind of people. But Arday was not particularly interested in who he hurt. For the record, he was sitting there in the court, so he tried to be sensible for several years. But the people in the organisation were not sensible. I mean, you can't have this being promoted repeatedly in Birmingham. And when you're going into Birmingham University, catching the managing director doing this, and again she's hiding. Well, from November until now, she's had, I'm sure, a lot of resources to come clean. Could have come and spoken to me here. The police out in their wall, she could have come and spoken to them. But we're sitting here on a bench, again, speaking to this thing up here, because we cannot get any kind of sensible back and forth between members of the British legal profession and Birmingham to discuss her antics. So there's the personal and the political, I suppose, but no reasonable person could stay in that city and carry on. So the behaviour of people like a Gentieri is just a total disgrace. Every time even after David Amis, all these people, women like this who have no regard for anyone besides themselves and the money they've got coming in, can be relied upon to behave dishonestly and unethically. It is disappointing, I've got to say, to have people like Helen Pluckrose behaving in this kind of manner as well. It's not illiberal to say people behaving in that manner after Southport should be properly removed from the British public body, which is pretty basic. So her colleague and Will Rouch was giving us the ammo by giving us the struggle session. But Helen's contribution towards Birmingham was minimal. I mean, she could have tried to get in and help proactively, but didn't. She was offered repeatedly internally for them to go and engage with her, but clearly haven't. So, again, it's a further disgrace for even people on our side of the argument that this woman can't actually behave in an appropriate manner. But once again, we'll go think about the Brummies on Mondays. If you want someone to appear via video link, do case reviews at the Birmingham Civil Justice Centre. If you're summoned to court for a possession hearing, I will cheerfully appear free of charge to contest not anything they put through. It may be that you have broken the law and the inferences are reasonable, but it's highly likely, given the way the department is run, that it's been put through unlawfully, effectively, or certainly unethically, and you've got a strong case to contest it from anybody sent by the current court service staff. So you reach out to me, gorwell8484 at protonmail.com, and we'll happily appear at whatever time you choose to do case reviews. If your duty solicitor at the court hasn't appointed you towards these recordings or similar, they are pretty incompetent. So, again, for the benefit of the legal profession, if the current surviving head of the McGrath is sitting on a bench saying stuff like this, play around if you want to, but eventually the legal influence chain will go back into Birmingham. Certain people will start going to jail. People like Varney and Nail will be dragged back into the city whether they like it or not. And the entryism plot from 2020 can be unravelled. So I shall leave that thought there before I go back to Sucky on the medical device with the current batch, thankfully having been delivered to Scotland, because money and gold is still worth something, even if Birmingham's debased currency supply is still being illegally cut off by the little crooks. But nothing has changed. If you can go and physically find people at the court service and they can explain in clear and straightforward terms, as can Helen Pluckrose, why former counterweight members are apparently too scary for anybody in the city to behave with any kind of basic decency, and that includes any member of the British legal profession or formerly well-regarded writers. I'd still recommend Cynical Theories, by the way. Still worth picking up. It's a good primer on the ideology and how it sort of worked and came out of the universities. But a better work is Charles Pincor's Counter-Wokecraft, because that lets you do the hard work in terms of political theory and political strategy. It was designed for an environment where you have to sneak around, and of course in Birmingham we had to do that for several years. But it was just not helped by people who were supposed to behave appropriately just deciding that they were going to toddle off and get on with their lives and dump the serious compliance people off because we were continually underestimated, both as a family and then as an organisation when the family managed to get into the other crime network. We'll send it off into Google servers. Then Helen Pluckrose, I'm sure, can find her ex-counterweight members in central Edinburgh. She's got a bench, same as the Brummies, same as the head of West Midlands Police. But if you can't, again, if you call 101, maybe the policeman will stop walking past a bench, turn up with a solicitor and say, okay, well, we appreciate that there's entries into a public body, people taking various unethical actions that could have gotten people injured, seriously injured. I think the drunk guys on the pub may have died, actually, I don't know, I can't recall. But they're preventing you from giving you a proper witness statement chain, given the level of functioning of family background. Just tells you everything you need to know. So you don't need to physically see me. I assure you I'm not so terrifying that people think I'm going to leap out of the dark and eat their face or something. It's just that there are so many corrupt people around the country and so many useless people that you will be better than pretty much anybody else if you can get police assistance. Andrew Mitchell can't, the commissioners can't, the police can't, so we've got a serious problem that can only be resolved probably via the King at this point and a general election. But that can be accomplished in various ways, so that is going to need to be the end result. But in the interim, the law still applies, so Gordon Brown's Equality Act is still in force. The laptop in my bag, that applies more so than it does out here. We could follow it within the bag. It's just that the bag is turned into an engine of destruction, which is threatening to destroy the country while people hide. Again, just a logical inference by looking at what comes through us. We'll give credit where credit is actually due then. So Helen, I'm afraid, cannot really run serious organisations. But to be fair, if you are the tank guys, you do run the risk of sort of ending up like Navalny. So this is what you sort of have to do in life sometimes. If you read Solzhenitsyn, you do eventually think, well, at some point I have to think, well, just fuck it, let's go at these people, because you have no other choice. You realise that because it's a wave of sort of ignorant human flesh coming at you, it's kill or be killed, and you get you kill in a rhetoric sense. So Lindsay's Chinese method of war contribution was pretty good. The Chinese five element theory one. Satire, of course, is pretty effective and has been effective in silencing Birmingham's crooks and giving one a firm backup here. But it's just that everyone in the supposed white network, if you think about this in a Maoist sense, is now sort of crumbling. So you've got Britain's answer now deciding that she can't answer to her former members. Helen doesn't like the word member for counterweight, so if you weren't part of her inner circle, apparently she will contribute with sort of starness and personing as well, in addition to Burmese Council. But as the 2020 wave sort of sweeps out of serious public bodies, the wreckage left behind is considerable. So when Vance is looking at us and saying, well, you do appear to be on a different civilizational project, we clearly are at this point. It's just undeniable, given the breakdown of law and order. So without a general, you are looking at a position where British writers like that, upon the mere suggestion that their own lack of standards led to one of Birmingham's compliance officers nearly being stabbed to death. Again, clearly just a true and logical statement. At this point in British history, you need something more than liberalism. So liberalism needs a base rock, and that should be in the building here, except there are Marxist conflict theory noises coming from there on Sunday as well. So, you can make these kind of run-on sentences fairly easily, casually on a Saturday night in front of, are we Friday or Saturday? I think we're Saturday, aren't we? In front of Navalny. But the state of Birmingham is quite clearly unacceptable. But it's just a shame to see how much cowardice there is in Britain at the moment. That you have people within organisations up and down the country just hiding, so that you can get on a plane from Edinburgh Airport, head down to London, sort of see these people having a good old soiree, then sort of hiding afterwards is still mind-blowing to me, even from November till now. At every stage of the process as well, in any public body, there is a duty to be proactive, prevent duty, that kind of stuff, all covered by Islamic entryism. The influences go on. So this is the problem. The city, because of the level of corruption, does just consume everything. You can say, okay, well, be as stoic all you like, but of course, you get guys like Navalny who think, well, you can't sort of hide in a cave forever. You can't just say, well, I'll live in a barrel and say, well, I'm being ethical because I'm a stoic. That's not really how it works, and it's not really how the philosophy works either, which is why it's applicable between people who are actual slaves and emperors, because it's a functional way of being in the world and also governing your empire. Just that Aurelius' son wasn't up to the mark. I suppose in some, think of it on the positive side then, so in some places in the country you can have a disappointing evening out. It'll be slightly less disappointing than this, but again, for the record, if coming into Sunday famous British writers can't get you as Leicester either, it doesn't bode well, I'm afraid, for the British legal profession. So we've gone from an entire room full of people, seeing if you can get some kind of support to get away from serious violence, but that doesn't appear to be the case. Cold city, Birmingham, cold country.